10 layers and 35 entries. This is the Internet Conspiracies iceberg, ranging from the most well-known entries to the most obscure. Before I start this video though, I want to preface this by saying that most of these are theories, so while some of what I might say might be valid, just take it with a grain of salt. But with that being said, let's get into the iceberg. Starting off with the first two layers, which I'm going to decide to cover both, as layers 1 and 2 consist of basic normie information that you need to understand everything beyond layer 3. So all you need to know is that they just refer to things that can be used in an internet conspiracy. So stuff like bots, trolls, algorithms, and data collection are all things that are being used for these conspiracies, which I'm going to be explaining. But we can take away from the first two layers are algorithms and data collection, and also targeted advertising, as these all have to do with each other. Algorithms are basically just designed to create echo chambers on social media as a way of keeping the social media user hooked. And meanwhile, said social media users' data is also being collected at the same time and is being bought off by tech companies. And via that data, they recommend you ads. This is stuff that everyone already knows, though this kind of forms the basis of every single technique that's used in an online conspiracy. With that being said, we can start getting into layer 3 and beyond. Deepfakes. Deepfakes generally refer to videos and pictures in which an individual's face is being manipulated by AI to make it look like someone else's. It's kind of complicated explaining, though if I show you an example, you'll get what I mean. Let's say you have a movie scene. I'm just gonna be using the Back to the Future movie scene as an example. Now imagine the iconic actors of this movie being replaced by Robert Downey Jr. and Tom Holland. Well, via AI manipulation, you are able to achieve this, and that's essentially a deepfake. Deepfakes are generally incredibly controversial due to the fact that they've been used with malicious intent, generally being used to generate things such as CP, and no, I'm not talking about cheese pizza, and also videos of celebrities doing certain things, if you get what I mean. Deepfakes do not just extend to face swapping, but audio manipulation as well, as seen in this deepfake video.
I am not Morgan Freeman, and what you see is not real. Well, at least in contemporary terms.
Although aside from face swapping and audio manipulation, deepfake technology has also been used to create images of people who don't exist, with sites such as thispersondoesnotexist.com being such an example. Cicada 3301. Cicada 3301 refers to a series of puzzles posted on 4chan between 2012 and 2014 by a user named 3301. These puzzles were heavily centered on things such as cryptography and were generally very hard to solve. The puzzles consisted of 3 sets, the first of which was posted on January 4th, 2012, and was solved within a month. Then later, a second round of puzzles appeared and were also solved, though the third round till this day still remains unsolved. The point of the puzzles was to apparently recruit intellectual individuals, whatever that means, which made sense because of how difficult they were. Many people have speculated that Cicada 3301 was made with the goal of recruiting people into the CIA, the NSA, or just some hidden cyber group. Though until the third round of puzzles are solved, we'll never know for sure. Lost media. Lost media refers to any kind of media that's no longer believed to exist. This can range from anything, from movies to TV show episodes to YouTube videos to live streams. You get the point. Though there have been many instances of lost media being found by the Lost Media Wiki. The Lost Media Wiki has information on all kinds of media, and its users generally make an effort to track down lost media. Dog whistles refer to the use of coded language in political groups as a way to garner support from the group itself without provoking the opposing groups. For example, let's take the number 88. Usually, if you see someone with the number 88 in their name, it could potentially be a code for certain individuals on the political spectrum, as the code 88 stands for HH, which is an abbreviation for Heil, you know. This is a thing we'll come back to later. The term was named after ultrasonic dog whistles, which are audible to dogs but not humans, hence, well, its name. Shadow banning. Shadow banning is a practice of banning a user without their knowledge, in a way done where their posts are visible to the sender but not to other users. Though nowadays it generally refers to delisting users in a platform so that most people can't view their content. The practice originates from the 80s, during the days of the BBS forums, though the practice was called a twitbit but later on was coined by the website Something Awful in 2001. Shadow banning has been a huge thing on all the mainstream social media platforms, with Twitter for example doing it because people were leaking US documents. So yeah. Internet watch lists. This entry is one of those ones where I feel like there's not much to explain, though generally this refers to government watch lists which monitor the activities of the people on the list on the internet, something of which I'm probably on myself. Though to be fair, nobody's safe, as all of our data is being collected by tech companies every single day. So yeah, let it be a reminder that we're being monitored Big Brother 1984 style every single day of our lives. Moving on, we have Layer 4. Reddit is a psyop. Oh boy, here's where the conspiracy part of the iceberg truly starts. For me to explain this entry, I'll first need to explain what a psyop is. Psyop stands for psychological operation, which is typically a government operation done to influence the behavior, emotions, and attitude of a targeted audience. An example of this would be the spread of McCarthyism in the US during the Cold War, which was meant to spread an anti-communist agenda across the US. Now, I'm gonna be primarily summarizing the video that Flesh Simulator made on this topic, although I still suggest you go to check out his video, as his is very interesting and a lot more detailed. Here goes the summary. Let's say you were to make a post about something related to history. Flesh Simulator decides to use the example of Mount Rushmore. Now you decide to look through the post and its comments, and you see that everyone's agreeing on the sentiment that it naturally occurred. But that's impossible, right? Because how on earth would 4 presidents' faces be perfectly molded without it being man-made? Now, of course, any human being with common sense would comment such a thing, because as we know, they are man-made. Immediately, you'll be met with downvotes and replies, calling you a complete idiot for asking such a question. Now, what's the strangest part about all of this? We'll be getting to that in a minute. If you go back to Reddit's 2014 End Year blog, if you find an archive of the original blog, you'll end up discovering that the most visited city by Reddit users is in the town where the Eglin Air Force Base is located in Florida, with apparently over 100k visitors within a year. But that can't be possible, because there are only about 2.5 thousand people who live there. Now this is where Flesh decides to look a little bit deeper, and ends up finding out that that specific base is actually home to the Air Force Cyberspace Wings, which were actually mentioned in a paper, which studied the effectiveness of AI encouraging political stances via the media. How interesting. Flesh then goes on to demonstrate just how easy it is to create a realistic Reddit post with the help of ChatGPT.
Let's see if ChatGPT was trained on Reddit user data. Write an AITA post about accidentally letting your neighbor's kid run away. Am I the asshole for accidentally letting my neighbor's kid run away? Hey Reddit, today I was watching my neighbor's child, and amidst a momentary distraction, the little one managed to slip away and run the neighborhood. Now the parents are upset, and I'm wondering if I'm in the wrong. AITA.
So let this be a reminder for all of you. It doesn't matter who you are not immune to propaganda. Let me be even more clear. None of us are immune to propaganda. Tor is a fed honeypot. The Tor network is a network made for anonymous browsing and communication, and is generally used to access the dark web. Tor was originally developed by the US government as a way for those in the military to conceal their identity, or in any case, be a lot harder to trace. Now, what this entry suggests, which isn't exactly far from the truth, is that Tor was made available for the public with the intent of catching criminals, which would make a lot of sense. Onion links, which are only accessible via the Tor browser, have often been created by the FBI as a way of preventing future crimes from happening. Typically, these sites are sites that claim to host CP and to sell slaves and whatnot, and via the help of these sites, the FBI has actually been able to trace lots of criminals. So it's really not that far off, and honestly, it does make a lot of sense. Google is a Potemkin village. This entry kind of has to do with the dead internet theory, which we'll be getting into soon. So if this entry doesn't make sense to you, then that's fine. But first, let me start by explaining what a Potemkin village is. A Potemkin village is usually referred to as a construction, so let's say buildings, of tricking other people who are looking from the outside into thinking that the situation is actually better than it is. An example of this would be the Gyeongdong village in North Korea. On the outside, it seems to have a nice collective farm with schools and lots of inhabitants. But the moment you genuinely take a look, you realize that it was all just a front. Now that you have an idea of what a Potemkin village is, let's get into how Google itself is an example. Have you ever noticed how whenever you search something up, whether that be aliens or something else, you're immediately bombarded with lots of results, whether that be aliens or something else. And we're talking hundreds of millions of results and even billions of results, which makes it seem like there's almost an infinite amount of content on that said topic, right? Well, once you start to look deeper, you'll realize that it's just a front. I'll allow all time to demonstrate this phenomenon to you, so all credit goes to him.
When you search pizza with Google, you are instantly given, at the time of this video, over 1 billion results in 1.02 seconds. That's incredible, right? I can't wait to dig through 1 billion plus links to pizza and discover all there is to find out. If you count the number of results on page 1, you'll see that there are 9 results. That's not a lot of links right off the bat, but I guess they don't want to overwhelm you with too much pizza knowledge. 9 results on the first page, that's fine, but when I got to page 6, something weird happened. Somehow the results for pizza jumped up to 1,340,000,000 from 1,050,000,000. Did Google just discover 290 million extra pizza results between clicks? On page 24, Google still says we have 1,340,000,000 results to go. The next weird anomaly doesn't happen until page 25. It instantly drops to 1,210,000,000. I'm sorry, but where did those extra 130 million results go? The rest of the pages showed the same result of 1,340,000,000 until we got to the final page. What was the final page? I mean, it had to be an insanely high number to show all the billion plus results, right? Wrong. It's page 35. On page 35, the facade completely breaks apart and reveals the total number of results, listed as 348. That's 348 results for pizza total. As in everything Google has listed when it comes to pizza web results, 348. What? What happened to the other 1,340,000,000 results? Where did they go? Why does Google say that they have over 1 billion results when they clearly don't?
Now this ties with a dead internet theory, hence why it may seem confusing as to why Google is doing this in the first place. So keep this in mind until we get into that entry. Internet psychological operations. This entry refers to all the psychological operations that have been carried out using the internet, and this does not only consist of the Reddit one, but many other examples. Aside from the Reddit one, there are still many examples that we at least know of. As mentioned earlier, trolls, spam, bots, all those kinds of things are utilized in these psychological operations, as governments generally utilize troll farming when it comes to spreading their influence throughout the internet. And for those who don't know, troll farming refers to a group of trolls that seek to interfere in people's political opinions and are usually paid by their local government to spread propaganda and attack critics. The US government has carried out multiple psychological operations via the internet, with information coming out on them as recent as June of this year. You heard me right. In June 2024, a news agency named Reuters revealed that back in 2020, the Trump administration via social media launched a psychological operation against Chinese COVID-19 vaccines in East Asia, specifically the Philippines though. This was done with the goal of suppressing China's influence on the Philippines, as they feared that their assistance would strengthen ties between the Philippines and China. Most of the posts were aimed at Muslims, claiming that the vaccine contained pork gelatin and was therefore haram, which in turn contributed to multiple COVID casualties in the Philippines. But this wasn't only in the Philippines though, but also the Middle East, with for example, similar posts on Russian and Chinese vaccines being spread in Arabic and Farsi on Twitter. So do not trust anything you see on the internet, and I mean absolutely nothing. Government chills. This entry overlaps with the previous one, but I'll still explain it anyway. Government shills in this context refers to trolls and bots that pose as regular internet users, but are being in fact sponsored by local governments. A huge example of this would be the Serbian government's sponsoring of troll armies on the internet, which usually consisted of bots and existed with the purpose of spreading Serbian nationalism and both anti-Bosniak and anti-Albanian sentiment on the internet. Hence why whenever you go to any video related to the Yugoslav wars, you'll end up seeing a comment stating that Kosovo is Serbia, or why memes such as Remove Kebab, aka Serbia Strong, have been spread all over the internet. The dead internet theory. This is a theory that the internet now particularly consists of or is dominated by content that is generated by AI, with the goal being presumably to shift public perception, especially that of the US government. I'm gonna go into a bit of detail on this one, since it's arguably the foundation of this entire iceberg. Have you ever noticed how throughout the years, especially if you've been on the internet since before 2016 and 2017, things have just been incredibly different? Like everything's just made to hook you in rather than expression. I mean, look at it now. The internet started off as a place to express yourself. Algorithms didn't exist whatsoever. It was just a place where you could discover a lot and freely express yourself. But if you compare the internet from over 10 years ago to the internet now, you'll notice that the platform I'm posting this on, YouTube for example, mainly exists with the purpose of serving advertisers and have nobody out there hit you with a yellow dollar sign. The internet went from being a place where people felt like they could hide and freely express themselves to a huge targeted marketing scheme. And it gets even worse and more apparent every single day. But how did we get to this point? Well, this theory suggests that we got to this point because of a little DARPA lifelog project. DARPA, for those who don't know, stands for the Defense Advanced Research Projects Energy, which is a research agency for the US's military that's mainly responsible for their tech weapons and whatnot. Now, it's unclear when the lifelog project started, but it was primarily with the goal of understanding what people like to do on the internet, the content they like to view, their interactions, etc, etc. In other words, they were collecting the data of users so that they could hook them in with algorithms. Now, this would end somewhere around January 2004, which was when... wait, a month prior to Facebook's release. And we know that Facebook collects all of our data. Now, another thing that we know about the internet due to articles is that reportedly 60% of the internet is merely AI content. And if you use Twitter like me, you've also definitely noticed the amount of bot accounts there are. It's even been proven that posts on social media on platforms such as YouTube, Reddit, and Facebook have had things such as their view counts manipulated. And as we do know, the internet has been used for psychological operations as a way to push a government agenda. I know I mentioned this briefly earlier, but I dare you to go ask ChatGPT to generate a Reddit post for you, and you'll notice how eerily similar it is to what you see on that platform most of the time. Heck, it's so realistic that there's even an entire subreddit which is AI generated and of which I myself am not able to tell the difference. But if you're interested in learning more about this theory, I'd suggest watching All Times' full video series on it. With that being said, let's get into layer 5. Moving on to layer 5, we have the real reason for link rot. Link rotting has to do with the previous entries on, well, the dead internet theory and also the psychological operations. But essentially what it refers to is when hyperlinks pointing to their original source stops working. This has been a genuine thing that's been going on in the past 9 years, with allegedly 66.5% of these, well, hyperlinks to sites dying. If you want to get an idea of it, let me just explain it this way. Imagine if you were in a library and you just saw that every single book in front of you just slowly started to fade away. Yeah, that's what link rotting is, only it's the internet. Now, it's unclear as to why this happens though, but the main theory is that this is happening as an elaborate scheme to erase internet knowledge. In simpler terms, the government's trying to pull a 1984. It wouldn't really surprise me if this was the case, but it's just pure speculation. Subliminal messages. This isn't really like a huge internet conspiracy like the rest of the entries on this list, but it's kind of like this thing where it's like, that's interesting. What this refers to is how the logos of large websites are actually all hidden subliminal messages. For those who don't know, subliminal messages are hidden messages that are usually there with the intent of, let's say, getting the viewer to behave a certain way or to think a certain way. So on YouTube, you'll find lots of subliminals on stuff like appearance, on stuff like, I don't know, mental health, luck, all that kind of stuff, and they're made with the goal of changing your thought process. But as you can guess, it's obviously done in secret though. But if you look into certain logos like that of Amazon's, you'll see that there's an arrow pointed from A to Z, to imply that they have everything from A to Z. This is just one of many subliminal messages and logos, but if you're interested and want to look into it, I mean, just search it up. You're gonna find a list of logos with subliminal messages. Behaviorism. Behaviorism is the idea and concept that human beings learn through conditioning rather than internal mental states. It's kind of weird explaining, but to explain this, I'm gonna be using the example of the rat in a box, otherwise known as the Skinner box experiment. Let's say you have a rat in a box with a lever that once pressed provides the rat with food. Now, the rat will be more likely to press it often, knowing that it will be rewarded, which is where the behavior of pressing it increases. Now, let's say that pressing that lever actually punishes the rat. Well, of course, it'll be less likely to press it. Now, with this analogy, we could use this to explain social media. So as we know, social media is controlled by large tech companies, which all generally enforce their agenda. And so via their understanding of the concept of behaviorism, tech companies manage to use it as a way to control the masses. If your behavior reinforces the agenda, you'll get a boost on the platform and will be bombarded with approval. Those being, for example, likes, comments, whatever, you get the gist. Which means that you'll be more likely to repeat that behavior. But if you don't decide to reinforce the tech company's agendas, you'll be punished with a ban. So in a nutshell, social media is just one huge skimmer box. Mainstream conspiracies are a psychological aberration. This is a theory that's been going on for a while, but it's as the entry suggests. Mainstream conspiracies such as QAnon and Flat Earth are psychological operations as a way to get people to fall into the alt-right pipeline, as a way to distract people from genuine conspiracies such as the COINTELPRO and Operation Chaos, both of which are CIA and FBI conspiracies which occurred during the Cold War, in which the FBI and CIA illegally spied on those within leftist organizations such as the Black Panthers, Nation of Islam, and other anti-Vietnam War organizations, so that they could disrupt their operations and in turn also reduce their influence, or nullify it completely. Yes, I'm wearing the beret due to the Black Panthers. I'm heavily inspired by them every single day. As we have established earlier, mainstream media is generally utilized by the US government as a way to spread their agenda. So why would they allow these conspiracies to be spread via the mainstream if they were true? I mean, all of a sudden, between 2015 and 2016, there was a huge surge in popularity when it came to the Flat Earth theory, and the QAnon conspiracy theory led to many people becoming Republicans and voting on Trump. So it definitely could be that mainstream conspiracies are being used as a way to shift the attention from genuine conspiracies that have actually been proven true. But I mean, I'm just being like a little goofy goober, I'm just joking around, I'm just having fun here. And also another thing, if I die, it was not me. But with all that being said, let's just get into layer 6. So the first entry we have on layer 6 is memes are mind control. The entry itself is already very straightforward. I don't think I need to explain what it exactly means, but I mean, it does have some truth to it. Like for example, the dad face Serbia strong meme, or many forms of the Sojak meme to discredit someone's argument. But it's actually been proven that memes do in fact influence behavior. Memes have generally been used in the past to spread political agendas, but it's actually been proven that memes do in fact influence behavior. A study done by Joshua Neubert, ignore my dyslexia, at the University of Maryland found that to be the case, and I'll link his study in the description below. A huge example of memes even changing the public narrative when it came to politics would be when memes spread in Croatia with the caption, "The father is back," as an attempt to re-legitimize Ivo Sanader, who actually served as a prime minister in Croatia for some time, though was arrested for corruption. And the funny part about all of this is that it did in fact work, as the media went from providing a neutral opinion to a positive one. Even DARPA studied their influence due to just how powerful memes can be. Now here's where the mind control part comes in. Though you can kind of say that this is a bit of a stretch, but memes have been used as a form of an illusory truth effect, which is pretty much once you repeatedly expose people to false information, which eventually will be perceived as the truth, especially when it comes to the stuff that I mentioned earlier, since with enough repetition, your subconscious mind will adopt these ideas, which will in turn influence your behavior. It's a bit of a stretch, but in my opinion, it's not exactly that far off. Intellectual castration. I'm gonna keep this one short because I've already somewhat explained it previously. But what this entry implies is that the modern internet was made the way it is to purposely make us dumber. I mean, there's obviously some truth to this, to which we can all agree. But nowadays, you have kids talking about Skibbity Toilet and Ohio Rizzler. Social media is slowly frying the brains of all of us and is in turn making us unproductive. So it's for sure succeeded in distracting the masses in general, which kind of makes this entry a no-brainer. No part of the web is safe. This entry alludes to the idea that every single website is actually at the risk of being taken down or maybe even potentially being hacked, which means that no part of the web is safe. This isn't really just an idea, this is an actual thing. As ever since 2014, there have been breaches which led to billions of records being exposed. An example of this being a Yahoo breach that took place in 2014, which led to around 3 billion accounts being affected. And this is just one example, as there's been a lot more instances that have happened throughout the years. So yeah, no part of the web is safe, and our information is at risk of being breached at any moment. Newspeak plot. This entry suggests that internet slang will eventually become the language of this new world order. So essentially, once the world is ruled by a totalitarian dictatorship, internet slang will become a part of its language. And so what this implies is that the internet is slowly being used as a way to build the roots of this new world order. Newspeak's a reference to George Orwell's 1984, referring to the language in Igsoc, which is Newspeak. The idea is that Newspeak follows most of the rules of English, but is characterized by a vocabulary that makes it stand out, which in this case would be internet slang. With that being said, we can now move on to layer 7. Layer 7 is where some of the meme entries start to come in, so some of the entries are meant as jokes. Proof of time travel shadow banned on YouTube. This entry is more like a what if situation, but if there were proof of time travel on YouTube, it would immediately get shunned off that list or just shadow banned, as it would bring the platform itself at risk. And as we know, it would immediately get shadow banned due to the fact that YouTube went from a place where you could express yourself to a place that's outright just been sold off to advertisers. So I mean, It's a good what if. The hub hosts CP. I'm gonna have to be careful with how I word this so that YouTube doesn't age restrict my video, but this is not even a conspiracy theory, this is a genuine fact. There have been many instances of CP ending up on the hub, with one story of a missing 15-year-old girl from Florida being found via the hub, starring in about 58 videos. And I mean, this is just one of many stories, as there was also another story that was featured on the New York Times about a girl who was 14 years old at the time that a video of her doing things that I'm not allowed to describe surfaced on that website. You heard me right. And despite the hub being notified of the fact that she was 14 at the time, the video was still kept up and even amounted over 500,000 views. And the hub has also done other disgusting things, like the hub saw a video of a Chinese woman being raped and decided to be like, hey, you know what, let's put that up as an ad. The list just goes on, but I mean, it genuinely is just disgusting. ASMR is a psychopathy test. Moving on to a somewhat brighter entry, I guess. I don't know if you can exactly call it that, but it's not as bad as CP on the hub, I guess. We have ASMR as a test to see if you're a psychopath. Now, how could an ASMR video possibly be a test to see if you're a psychopath? Well, it's because to feel ASMR, you need to have active mirror neurons, which psychopaths don't have. So therefore, they can't feel anything from it emotionally. But I mean, hey, I don't know for sure, I'm not a psychologist, so take this entry with a grain of salt. MK Ultra internet brainwashing. This one's a bit of a meme entry, but for those who don't know, MK Ultra was a CIA program that consisted of illegal operations that were made with the goal of developing mind control methods. The subjects of these operations consisted of prisoners, such as LSD were used to influence their behavior, and also other things that I can't really describe on YouTube. And so this theory suggests that MK Ultra-like methods are being used via the internet to groom mass shooters and to radicalize them. Yeah, it's pretty much as schizoid as it sounds, but oh well. Moving on to layer 8. Starting off with the first layer on layer 8, we have corn actresses or succubi. Succubi are female-looking demons that usually appear in men's dreams as a way to seduce them. And now succubi, according to its believers, can also materialize into the 3D world and take the form of a human girl. So I mean, how would you be able to tell the difference? Online gang stalking. This one's also like another meme entry, but it refers to how users on 4chan's export have reported being followed by stalkers, though there's really not much to go with, and it's just like one of those schizoid things, I guess. Satanic internet dog whistles. As explained earlier, dog whistles are messages that are aimed at a certain group which don't attract the opposing group. And it's usually used politically, though it can also be used religiously. So this entry refers to dog whistles that Satanists use online to signal to other Satanists that they, well, are what they are. And so on the internet, you'll come across many people with satanic dog whistles in their name, specifically letters that resemble 666, such as EEE, DDD, and BBB, and also PFPs that depict satanic imagery, such as demons and reapers. SCP based on real life. This one's just a huge meme entry. I mean, if you look at the SCP website, it's stated that the SCP is not based on real life. Subliminal sigils in corn. Sigils are painted symbols that are meant to have magical power. They're meant to be signatures of angels. And so what this entry suggests is that they're being placed in corn videos without you really knowing about them. They can be placed in the background without you noticing or appear for a mere moment before disappearing. And both 4chan and Reddit users have alleged seeing a sigil in one of the corn videos they were viewing. And so they theorize that this is being done due to busting being one of the most effective ways, if not the most effective way, to charge a sigil. The infernal internet theory. This entry refers to the theory that suggests that the internet is populated and run by demons and / or Satan and / or other evil entities. The evidence to suggest these things would be things such as occult references being everywhere on the internet, and the symbol for Chrome, and even the word internet equaling 666. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Moving on to layer 9. The last two entries are hella short, so I'm just gonna like quickly run through them. But now we have Wikipedia is secretly written by one person. This entry is meant hyperbole, though 1/3 of Wikipedia is actually written by one man, and that man's name is Stephen Prout, and he's the administrator of Wikipedia, so I mean, It's not that far-fetched. Twitter was created to trigger World War III and/or a civil war. This one's just another meme entry, though I want you to really think about it. Twitter feeds off rage bait. In fact, most of its algorithm is just rage bait dedicated to getting you into a Twitter argument with a bot, so it feels somewhat true. The Great AI Gaslight Experiment. This is literally just the dead internet theory, but on steroids. There's literally nothing to add. So last but not least on the iceberg, we have every user's internet is personalized. And you may be thinking, well, duh, but this one's a lot deeper than just, oh hey, look, I was just searching up about this certain thing, and now no matter where I go, I'm just getting ads for it. I mean, like, have you ever thought about why arguments are so common on the internet? Well, this theory suggests that it's because every single video you watch and every single post you like is suggested to you based on your likes, your dislikes, your dreams, and your desires. And you may be thinking, well, doesn't that make sense? But I mean it in a different way. Think about Lane from Serial Experiments Lane fusing her mind with the Wired with that, like, little, thing that she kind of puts on her head. Yeah, that's literally this entry in a nutshell. There's no proof and there's some evidence, but this whole thing's just merely speculation. So there's really nothing much to add. And with that, I can say, this is the Iceberg. Thank you for watching. Sincerely, your favorite beret-wearing YouTuber. Goodbye.